Hello and welcome to the nominations event for Research Got Talent 2021. As you know, for the past year we've all been stuck in our home offices and actually let's do this outside this. Welcome to the nominations event for Research Got Talent 2021. We are once again very proud to be sharing with you the final projects from our contestants this year. Over the next hour, you'll see projects from Australia, Canada, the Czech Republic, Peru, and Russia, spotlighting the work of these passionate young researchers supporting charities and NGOs in their countries. This competition highlights the power of research and insights to support the work in tackling key societal challenges like education, access to healthcare, and protecting vulnerable populations. With new insights, charities and NGOs can better focus their missions and learn more about their donor bases. We couldn't be prouder of the young researchers who have participated this year to help this valuable work. We start our Research Got Talent journey this year down under in Australia, a land famous for kangaroos, crocodiles, sunshine, and AC/DC. Our finalists from Australia this year, May Chanter and Samantha Liu, chose to support the work of charity Courage to Care, helping young students learn how to be more inclusive and stand up against prejudice. Here's their final project.
Hello, my name is Samantha Liu and my partner May and I are from Lua's Research in Melbourne, Australia. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of the Research Got Talent 2021 competition and to present our Courage to Care Upstander Program's Scoping Study submission. In this presentation, we'll be covering why we chose this social issue, who our not-for-profit Courage to Care is and their business problem, our research methodology, and the research learnings and impact on Courage to Care, the industry, and for us as young researchers. First off, why did we choose this topic? For our submission, we really wanted to find a new NGO that is actively involved and speaks to key pertinent social issues facing our community today. Diversity and anti-discrimination are topics close to home for May and I. We've been exposed to discrimination in many facets of our lives, and naturally we're not the only ones. As I'm sure you're all acutely aware, there's been a particular focus in the news recently about discrimination and bullying in workplaces, sport, and the wider community, including sexual harassment and assault, highlighted by the Me Too movement and March for Justice, police discrimination and brutality, spotlight by Black Lives Matter and deaths in custody, and spikes in racist attacks in light of COVID through Stop Asian Hate. These have all highlighted that critical need to address issues of discrimination and bullying from the schoolyard to workplaces and the wider community to make a positive community-wide change. With this in mind, we've partnered up with Courage to Care Victoria, a not-for-profit on a mission to empower the community to stand against prejudice and discrimination by transforming bystander behaviour to positive action. They primarily do this through their Upstander programs, which promote acceptance of diversity and equips participants with practical tools to take positive action. And this leads me on to their business opportunity and how we've been able to help.
Courage to Care is committed to offering our schools programs at no cost. Therefore, we have to build a sustainable economic model. A natural progression for us is to start to look at a fee-for-service offering into the workplaces, and that's why this research by Lua's is so important.
Courage to Care have been mainly running free volunteer-led programs to middle and secondary school students, but are now hoping to bring these programs into workplaces and the wider community through a fee-for-service model. This will enable sustainable reinvestment and thus expansion of the free student-based Upstander program, and to facilitate the ability to expand these programs to workplaces in the form of cultural and professional training. Where we've been able to help Courage to Care is twofold. One, provide recommendations to optimize their communications, in particular their program description, with the aim to maximize awareness and take-up among corporate and government organizations. In this study, we really wanted to see whether a certain message hierarchy or proof points resonated more with this target audience. And 2, determine the ideal price point for this fee-for-service model for this market. And now May will go through how we did this and what we found.
So to get started, we knew we needed to develop 2 program descriptions with some variation from the original so we could test new elements and languaging. To do this, we decided to implement the current description as a control and develop another version alongside Courage to Care, which we called the optimized description. The key differences between the two was that the control description was much more succinct and focused on introducing Courage to Care as an organisation, as well as explaining what the program was about. While we still kept these for the optimized description, we also explicitly added research around the benefits of inclusivity in the workplace, which highlighted things such as increased innovation, effectiveness, employee satisfaction, and increased retention compared to non-inclusive teams. Once we had our 2 descriptions, we were ready to test them with our target audience, which in this case was corporate and government decision makers who are responsible for training and development within their business. We used an online survey to do this and went out Australia-wide. In total, 478 decision makers took part in our research. We implemented an experimental design to do this, which randomly allocated half of the decision makers to the control description and the remaining half to the optimized description. After having read the descriptions they were allocated to, decision makers were asked a series of questions. This included their impressions of the description they have just read, and ultimately, therefore, about the program concept. We also asked sentiment, which we used emotional analytics to have a look at their text responses. We also conducted a metaphor elicitation exercise, which involved picking an image that respondents felt best represented how they felt about the description they just read. We conducted a highlighter task, which was where decision makers could highlight parts of the text that they felt were most appealing and least appealing, and also tell us why. And finally, we asked questions around consideration and take-up before ending with the Graeber-Granger Price modelling task. So, what do we find? For both of our descriptions, there was overwhelming positivity, and this told us that people really understood what the program was about. So our text analytics showed strong positivity, as well as strong sentiments of joy and secondary emotions there, which you can see around power and confidence, celebration, excitement and thrill, and optimism and engagement. Primary emotions of trust also came through, and the secondary emotions we can see there around certainty, relief and acceptance, and safety. Here are some of the things that people use to describe how the program made them feel. And these texts were analysed with our emotional analytics tool and grouped them into the primary emotions or themes, you could say, of joy and trust. Taking a look at metaphor elicitation, this is where decision makers picked an image that they felt best represented what they were just reading. You could see there that our messaging around unity, acceptance, and diversity really came through, and we could also start to see differences between the 2 descriptions and bolder emotions being felt. So following that, our highlighter task really showed us elements that were most appealing to decision makers. And these were statistics that highlighted benefits and relevance to organizations. This helped them form their business case as to why they should undertake this program. In addition to that, focus on education and transformation of behavior, particularly bystander behavior, also had great appeal. And this highlighted to us the appetite that organizations had for positive and action-orientated language. And to go alongside that, mentions of the engaging and collaborative workshops to consolidate learnings were also well received. So to the big issue for Courage to Care, how to price. And for the first time in my young researcher career, I learned how to set up and implement the Gaber-Granger price modeling. And we looked at the results for willingness to pay alongside a willingness to take up to give Courage to Care this model here, which gives them a range of where to price to achieve a similar revenue. But we also considered something outside the brief, which was Courage to Care and their Upstender program are new in the market. So for us, we actually recommended that Courage to Care price on the lower end of this range so that they can increase willingness to take up, but also accessibility for organizations. So those are the key things that we found.
When we started to seriously look at this, frankly, there was a lot of things we just didn't know. We didn't know what language to use, we didn't know who to really focus and pitch this at, and we didn't really know what pricing model to use. And being able to partner with Lewis has been vital because unless we have that sort of information, we just can't get focused and we just really would be so inefficient and ineffective. So this has been a really important step forward for us.
We're really grateful for the opportunity that Research Got Talent provided us, that we could give Courage to Care a roadmap to set out on the right foot. And we can tell that the team appreciated it too. Here's what they had to say. And now back to Sam to tell you about what we learned.
Now to the impact of this experience as young researchers. The Research Got Talent competition has given us the opportunity to see how our research can be implemented to make a difference socially. It has also given us the opportunity to run a research program that uses a wide range of capabilities, both in terms of tools and people at Lewis, and a platform to really sink our teeth into methodologies we might not have experienced previously. And finally, this experience has given us exposure to the industry, both in Australia and globally. Thank you, ESOMAR and ADIA, for this amazing opportunity. And on behalf of May and I, thank you so much for your time.
Up next, we're crossing the globe once again to Canada, a land famous for hockey, maple syrup, and pristine wilderness. Canada has welcomed many migrants over the years, and with this comes a desire for Canadian citizens to help initiatives thousands of miles away from home. With their project, Vinka Merriman and Swati Garg have supported the work of the Citizens Foundation. Here's their final project.
Hi, I'm Vinka.
Hi, I'm Swati.
And we're the team from Canada.
And this is our presentation. We hope you enjoy it.
Our journey to find the right charity for our competition led us to discover TCF Canada. They are not as well known, but they have been doing some really great work in providing education to underprivileged kids in Pakistan. And they are not just helping these kids with their education, but they are also trying to bring in equality into the society by enabling girls to get an education. Their small and thoughtful act of having all female teacher staff is another effort to create an inclusive and balanced environment. There couldn't have been a better fit for us to do something for an organization who needs every bit of support and visibility to continue their great work, step by step, one day at a time, and bring a positive change into the society and into the world.
In order to gain a complete understanding of the donor population within Canada for TCF, we used a 4-part methodology. Each part built upon the last to gain more richness and insight, to give us a fuller understanding and tell a fuller story to TCF. The 4 parts were a social media survey, data collection from Statistics Canada to better understand the Pakistani diaspora within specific cities within Canada, a quantitative survey, and 12 in-depth interviews. The first step, the social media survey, was a very light analysis of the public social media sites within Canada. We looked at terms related to the issues important to TCF, such as education, women's rights, girls' rights, children's rights, and looked at what people were talking about as regards to those issues. We also looked at whether or not people were talking about TCF specifically and about the awards it had recently won. Step 2, Statistics Canada data, we did concurrently with the social media survey. TCF believed that Pakistani people or people of Pakistani descent might be more willing to donate because they had more personal connection to the issues and the places that TCF talks about. Based on this, we looked at Statistics Canada data, we looked at ethnicity data and income data in specific cities where TCF was considering holding events or making pushes for donations, and we looked at what the number of people of Pakistani descent were in that area and what the overall income distribution was for the area, so that TCF could better decide whether or not it was worth doing specific pushes in specific areas, and also what the messaging should be like. Step 3, the quantitative survey, gave us a broad view of the Canadian donor landscape in general. We asked about how much money people and time people donated. We asked what causes inspired them to donate and where they hear about new charities. We also asked specific questions about donating within Canada versus abroad to get a better understanding of whether different issues inspired these two different kinds of giving. We asked what charities had done in the past to make people feel connected or thanked and how well those gestures had worked. That part of the survey was designed to help TCF keep donors engaged after they had gained them, in order to maintain a consistent donor base beyond one-time donations. In step 4, interviews, we did 8 interviews with people we had sourced from the survey and 4 interviews with current TCF donors. We talked to the TCF donors about what had drawn them to TCF, why they continued to donate, what they liked about the organization, what kept them donating. We also asked them for any advice or things they would like to see from the organization that they were not already. These interviews helped us understand what was working and how TCF could better serve its current donors. We also did 8 interviews with our survey respondents. We dug deeper into what issues and messages drew them to charities, and dug for more detail on what communications they would like to receive from charities and what they'd like to hear about. We also asked them where they hear about charities again and tried to get more detail on that, and where they would like to hear about charities that they weren't already. We also asked if they had heard of TCF and their thoughts about a description of the organization and what they would expect from an organization like that. We asked them if there were specific types or places of communication they would expect from that specific type of organization, and whether they would like to get involved with an organization like that. This helped add detail and color to the quant survey and to get us a deeper and richer understanding of how people chose where to donate and where to put their money and their time, so that we could make more specific and useful recommendations for TCF.
And now I'm going to talk about the key learnings and recommendations from our research. Canadians are generous and are willing to donate to causes outside of their specific sphere, but they do not know how to find the organizations. 79% of our survey respondents mention that they do donate. 62% of donors donated to 3 or fewer organizations in the last year, so there are limited opportunities to connect with donors. 79% of those who donate abroad said they do not have a personal connection to the location or charity they donate to. 21% of those who donate in Canada and 43% abroad says education is an issue that drives them to donate. 22% of those who donate in Canada and 44% abroad say children's rights is an issue that drives them to donate. 8% of those who donate in Canada and 19% abroad say gender equality is an issue that drives them to donate. 17% of non-donors don't donate because they don't know where their money or time would be used for. Publish some numbers of where the money goes and be transparent about the budget. 69% of non-donors say they can't afford to donate money. Make a variety of options for donors, one time versus continuing, and a variety of amounts of money or time. 36% of those that donated time donated less than 30 hours last year. So make options to donate time that are manageable, not necessarily a few hours a week, maybe just one time. 98% of donors donate at least some of their donations to organizations within Canada. Would it be possible for TCF to partner with a Canadian organization to promote each other? Gifts from the organization are less effective at connecting or thanking than personalized thank you notes or phone calls. Specific stories of individuals who have been helped are effective. Profiles of kids or schools. General information about how many or how people have been helped is also effective. Most effective options are personalized thank you notes or phone calls and specific stories overall, but general info is also good. Word of mouth is very effective and desired way of hearing about charities. Create something for their donors to post on social media. Only 2% of survey respondents had heard about TCF. TCF needs to start a conversation at a very basic and fundamental level to raise the awareness about the work that they are doing. Something as basic as lack of education or a girl having to lose her right to education just because of who she is, this is not something that Canadians have accounted for. Social media channels are the most effective, engaging, and popular way of starting a conversation and accessing Canadians in an efficient and easy way across profiles and age groups, especially the younger generation who has social media as a part of their lifestyle. More mature audiences are also using online platforms to raise their concerns, share opinions, and educate themselves. Hence, TCF can use mediums like articles, blogs, host podcasts to talk about issues of education, gender equality, etc., which can in turn increase their visibility and help them connect with people across profiles. When Canadians talk about TCF's issues on social, they don't talk about them in the same way as TCF. Hence, TCF needs to do some education to help Canadians understand what do they mean when they talk about these things in the context of Pakistan. Find ways to connect Canadians to these issues. Share profiles of kids or schools, or even something as creative as a pen pal exchange between some schools in Canada and TCF schools. TCF also has room to grow within the Pakistani population within Canada. One-on-one interaction is very effective, and any chance to connect directly to donors is useful, whether it's face-to-face, over email, or through a personalized thank you.
We're so grateful to have gotten the chance to do this project. We hope this information will help TCF to build a more stable and robust donor base in Canada. We also have some thoughts for future work that could build off the study. One question we're not able to dig into very deeply here is what drives people to donate in particular ways. For example, what drives people to give time versus money versus goods.
TCF has both volunteers and donors, but due to the constraints of this project, we were only able to talk to donors. We did find that far more survey respondents donated money than time, but we would love to delve into this deeper. Also, this project gives us a good overview of the donor landscape in Canada, but we would love to know how that landscape compares to countries across the globe. Thank you for your time.
Now it's time to visit our only European finalist of the year, the Czech Republic. The country may be famous for its historic architecture, beer, and being the home of noted critic of bureaucracy, Franz Kafka. the wrong form. But the country also has a long history of social activism, and this year's research project from the Czech Republic supports a key social need. Here is the project from Jakub Svele and Václav Kulek, supporting the work of the Step to Home Foundation.
Hi, I'm Jacob.
And I'm Václav.
We are Team Confess. We would like to welcome you in the capital of the Czech Republic, the Prague. You can see how the city is beautiful.
But not everything in the Czech Republic is as beautiful as Prague, and that's the reason why we decided to make some effort and try to improve this country in some way.
The name of our project is Smooth Transition to Adulthood. There were a lot of topics on offer, but we choose improving the lives of children.
There is around 8,000 children who grew up in institutional care in Czech Republic.
And around 300 leave for adult life every year. However, around 60% of them find it difficult to integrate into society and find their place. They have no one to turn to and are without support and help. They often feel that nobody cares about them.
1 year ago, our research company established cooperation with the non-profit organization Step to Home, which primarily focus on young adults leaving residential care and their strategy and activities. Together with this foundation, Step to Home, we prepared a project for which we received funding from the state budget, which made this project possible.
We had decided to map the preparation of the young adults for the transition to adult life and the participation of the different stakeholders involved in this transition.
Identifying the needs of young adults usually happens only at the regional level, directly in residential facilities or in fieldwork. There is no unified nationwide concept that would lead to the better and more effective integration into the society.
Our task was complex. We looked for measures to assist the support the young people are given by state and non-profit organizations. We aimed to obtain the perspectives of the young adults and their experiences as the care and support receivers, as well as the views from the support providers, state residential institutions, as well as Child Protection Authority and the non-government non-profit organization representatives who are also helping with the transition.
The other aim of the project was to propose workable measures or additions to the support that would make it more effective and beneficial in the future for new adults leaving institutional care, and then try to enforce these measures in front of responsible decision makers, which is government of Czech Republic.
We wanted to go from the deep understanding of the personal point of view of all stakeholders to the full quantitative questionnaire.
The research had two parts: a qualitative part, in which 29 online interviews were conducted with representatives of each target group, and the quantitative part, in which 298 local social workers participated in the questionnaire survey.
Yes, since the survey was conducted in the immediate aftermath of the first wave of coronavirus crisis, it was necessary in the qualitative part to look for the alternatives to the face-to-face visits and physical interviews.
The current situation thus directly prompted a necessary change to start with online-only discussions.
The aim of the survey was not to humiliate or criticize any of the participating subjects, but rather to look at challenges faced and possible gaps within the system and to provide guidance on measures that may be adopted to make the preparation of care leavers meaningful and truly helpful for the children concerned.
It was a pleasant surprise to us that the Child Protection Authority representatives within all regions were willing to undertake the present research with us, and we even received feedback that they were very interested in this group of adolescents and would like to focus more on it in the future.
Okay, and let's move to the main findings of the research. The stakeholders involved in the survey highlight a number of points that need to be addressed in order to better prepare young adults for independent living. In addition, they believe that there is a lack of sufficient networking and cooperation between all the stakeholders involved. There is no common platform for sharing information and experience, even between regions.
All stakeholders agree that they would welcome the existence of an online child card to accompany them during their life in a residential institution and at the same time allow delegated access to complete data to individual institutions.
The survey also points out that after leaving the residential facility, there is a lack of follow-up care as well as the lack of starter flats for young adults who often have nowhere to go after leaving residential care. Thus, there is a calling for the necessary approval of the new law and legislative change on social housing.
To better prepare young adults for leaving residential care, 1/3 of Child Protection Authority staff called for increased availability of training housing and follow-up housing. But in this direction, there is a lack of systemic funding, and there are very few grants calls aimed specifically at this target group.
The majority of stakeholders involved in the survey also call for legislative changes that would lead to better care for those children and also meet their needs. Child Protection Authority staff do not have the time to accompany the young adult on the transition to independent living.
Okay, and here some results. After the publication of the official press release, the results of the research were presented in the Chamber of Deputies of Czech Republic in front of all interested stakeholders. An official manual for working with young adults has been established, and now we are waiting for a change in legislation.
We would like to communicate the results and the data that the research brings not only towards the ministers and the management of the regional authorities, but we are also going to the legislators. We are looking forward to see how the research results turn out and what will be their real impact for the young adults.
At the same time, we would like to thank you very much for your attention.
Bye.
What do you think of when you picture Peru? Stunning jungles, ancient civilizations, alpacas, all of those things of course, but Peru is also the home of the humble potato and has 3 official languages. Peru is also a proud competitor once again in Research Got Talent. And this year's project comes from Eva Havel and Ana Velasquez, supporting the valuable work of their NGO, Cantaya. Here's their project.
In Peru, in the department of Callao, is located one of the newest districts of the country, in Peru. In this place, there are many unmet basic needs. Not everyone has access to drinking water, sewers, or electricity. Also, not all residents have access to the internet because of its price. It is here that 17 years ago, the NGO Cantaya was founded with the mission of generating a change in the life of children of this area through education.
Hello, we are Anela Neva and we are the local winners of this year's Research Got Talent contest. In this video, we want to talk about how the process of carrying out this project was like, and also about the multiple learnings it has left us.
A couple of months ago, we were challenged to help Cantaya measure the impact of its program of the development of social and emotional skills of the children they work with. But why are these skills so important to Cantaya?
Because Cantaya understands that a comprehensive education implies going beyond academics, and that a fuller life can be lived if different skills to manage emotions and social relationships can be developed from a young age. In this sense, their work lands on reinforcing the education of elementary school-age children.
And what did we do? We proposed a two-stage investigation. The first was focused on developing a tool to help measure the social and emotional skills of children.
To do this, we conduct test research and interview teachers and psychologists who have worked with children from vulnerable areas. We divide elementary school age children into 3 groups and elaborate a questionnaire for each one. The second stage aimed to apply the tools we developed. Because the goal of this project was to assess the impact of the NGO on children, we decided to carry out a comparative study between kids who attend the program and those who don't. For that, we searched for schools of similar socio-demographic characteristics and surveyed their students. This fieldwork lasts 2 weeks and finished with 607 surveys between children from the NGO and the control group. To answer the research problem, a measurement scale was developed from the questions of the 3 questionnaires. The result was a 3-level index for each social-emotional skill evaluated. This analysis facilitates the identification of 1. How developed is the emotional and social intelligence of the children who are part of the NGO Cantaya versus the control group? 2. Which social and emotional skills are better developed in the first group? And 3. Which are the other skills that Cantaya needs to prioritize? This analysis was complemented with 181 surveys to parents of the children who attend Cantaya's program and a focus group with teachers of the NGO.
Along the way, we found many challenges that we were able to face as a team. One of the main ones was linked to the complexity of measuring social and emotional skills on children, since these skills are in constant development and there is no single way to do it.
The desk research was not enough to develop an adequate measurement tool that is consistent with the local context of these students. Therefore, it was important to receive feedback from specialists on this subject to adjust our questionnaires to what we should expect, not only from children according to their age, but also from kids who live in these vulnerable conditions.
Moreover, due to the pandemic, we experienced problems related to a more technical aspect, for example, with the application of survey.
For the second stage, we would have preferred to do a face-to-face survey with kids, but we had to hold them virtually. This technique had an additional problem. Not all students had access to good internet connection. To solve this, we used WhatsApp to send the questionnaires to the students, since this application allows, at a free cost, to attach documents and pictures. We contact 18 school teachers who work in a public elementary school near Cantaya and ask them if they could help with the application of the surveys. Since this study relies mainly on young children's participation, it was necessary to have the support of the teachers to make them feel more comfortable and secure. Teachers from 1st and 2nd grade were asked to apply the questionnaires to the students on virtual individual sessions, while teachers from 3rd to 6th grade were requested to send the questionnaires to the students and supervise the correct filling of them.
We believe that our study can have an immediate positive effect for this NGO. The development of social and emotional skills are one of the pillars of Cantaya's curriculum, so it is important for them to know how effective their program is and how to improve it.
With the results, they can also be aware of potential risk factors that may have an impact on the learning of these skills.
During this research, we confirmed that market research can be a good ally for NGOs. For example, audience targeting or impact evaluation can be conducted by this type of enterprises.
Market research goes beyond studies for private companies and has the capacity to do social research. From the result of this study, the NGO Cantaya was able to observe that, in general, the kids who participate in their program have a more developed set of social and emotional skills than their peers of the control group. They corroborate the positive influence of their program in the learning of the self-management skill, and they were also able to identify that they need to put more attention to strengthen the learning of the social awareness skills of their students.
Now that it's done, we can think about how we did things with this project. Definitely, the pandemic situation made it difficult to carry out a larger study.
We would have liked to expand the sample size and the number of schools that participate. It was tedious to locate the contact details of the schools and their principals, and, in addition, virtuality slowed down the bureaucratic permissions we needed. At the beginning of the project, we also discussed the decision to include or not the impact of COVID-19 in the measurement and evaluation of social and emotional skills of children. We considered that since it was a variable that affected the children indistinctly whether or not they were part of the NGO Cantaya, it was not necessary to measure it for the purpose of the study, which was to compare the results. Nonetheless, it would have been important to deepen the perceptions of how virtuality impacts how these skills are taught and developed, especially since given the nature of Cantaya program and classes.
We learned a lot about NGOs during this challenge, but the most important was that adaptation is constant and it must be done quickly.
With the pandemic, several problems arose, but these NGOs solved them and turned them into an opportunity. For example, nowadays Cantaya not only has students from Callao, its center of operations, but also has students in other parts of the country. Thanks to virtuality, they could expand their program.
We also learned a lot about ourselves. We have been colleagues for about 2 years, but we have never worked together in any study, much less be in charge of one.
We challenged ourselves to be more committed, collaborative, and organized because this was the only way to complete the project. Also, this research helped us understand how important it is to have client participation throughout the process. We shouldn't expect clients to be passive factors in projects, since by working collaboratively, objectives can be achieved faster and results can be better.
We're really thankful for the opportunity this contest gave us. If we hadn't participated in the Research Got Talent contest, we wouldn't have gotten to know the work of Cantaya. This experience brought us closer to a reality we sometimes forget exists in our country. This has also reminded us that we can be agents of impact in our society. Even from our roles as researchers, we can help to make a positive impact in the life of others. We are proud of both the instrument and the index we developed for this project, and we believe this will be useful for future evaluations of social and emotional skills in Peru.
Thank you and see you soon!
Last but not least, we welcome the return of our 2020 winners, Russia. Russia, as you all know, is the largest country on the planet, spanning across 11 time zones, and it contains over 100 different regional accents and dialects. The project from Russia this year comes courtesy of the Research Institute of the Moscow Healthcare Department, looking at the benefits of psycho-oncology care. Here's their final project.
Привет!
We are a team from Russia and we are happy to represent our country in the Global Research Got Talent competition.
And before presenting our project, we would like to thank our partners, and especially Olga Goldman, Director of non-governmental organization Yasное Утро, that helps cancer patients.
We also express our gratitude and appreciation to the organizers for having the opportunity to participate in this remarkable competition.
Every year, more than 600,000 Russians get cancer. Cancer is a big challenge not only for a patient, but also for his family and friends. Cancer patients struggle from pain, unpleasant procedures, financial difficulties, and practical limitations. It is important to note that they experience severe emotional distress, fears, and constraints. Moreover, the relatives of cancer patients are very worried about their condition and face fears and anxiety. For example, relatives are much more likely to worry about their relationship with cancer patient, patient's attitude to the disease, patient's physical condition, and other aspects. At the same time, it is known that psychological support improves the quality of life and effectiveness of treatment. Unfortunately, today in Russia, psychological support is not included in cancer care protocols.
Therefore, our goal was to demonstrate the need for psycho-oncology service in Russia. Our study had a complex design and a large sample. An online survey was conducted among a representative sample of the Russian population of more than 1,000 people. We analyzed 3 groups. The first group was cancer patients, those who have ever had cancer. The second group was close relatives of cancer patients. The third group was oncologists. To analyze the data, we used a number of statistical methods, including the analysis of correlations, cluster structure, and reliability. We also analyzed the relevant experience in social media using a self-designed Python script.
Let's move on to the results of the study for each of the samples. We started with the opinion of cancer patients, those people who have ever faced cancer.
73 people were interviewed. Most of them were in remission, and a third of them had cancer at the time of the survey. A comparison of patient diagnoses in our sample with the statistical data shows only minor discrepancies. Cancer patients face a large number of physical, practical, social, and emotional distress. Almost every second patient speaks about anxiety, sadness, fears, and depression. 8% of patients reported they had suicidal thoughts, which are an extremely alarming symptom. A fairly high level of anxiety and strong fears among cancer patients indicate the need for psychological support. Half of the patients experience strong and extremely strong emotional distress. The most common fears are to become a burden on family and friends, and fear of lacking money needed for treatment. 84% of respondents believe that cancer patients need psychological support. Half of them think that only some groups of patients need help. Such mentioned categories as psychologically unstable and weak indicate that some respondents have stigmatizing attitudes, that is, a negative attitude towards psychological support and people who need it. We can see that the majority of cancer patients face psychological constraints, fears, anxiety, relationship difficulties with loved ones. However, we found that only 16% of patients have thought about seeking psychological help, and only 7% have actually sought it. Why don't patients ask for psychological help? One of the important barriers is lack of information. A quarter of patients reported that they didn't know where they can get such service, and 80% did not receive such information from healthcare providers. The second barrier is poorly developed infrastructure. As we have already mentioned, the third barrier is psychological stigma, that is, embarrassment and shame to seek psychological support, and doubts that a psychologist can help in dealing with problems.
Let's move on to the survey devoted to close relatives of cancer patients. We interviewed more than 400 relatives of cancer patients. It is important to note that for one cancer patient there are 3 close relatives who are closely involved with and experience anxiety. Relationship with the patient and emotional difficulties, which are even more pronounced in relatives than in patients, become a serious problem. An alarming sign is suicidal thoughts, which were reported by every 20th relative. Half of the respondents say that they have the most intense feelings about the illness of a loved one. Relatives also reported pronounced fears, in particular fear of pain and suffering of a loved one, fear of uncertainty and future, and fear of the death of a loved one. 8 out of 10 respondents note relatives of cancer patients need psychological support. It is important that we found indirect confirmation of the effectiveness of psychological help. We selected the group who reported willing to consult a psychologist, and after this we compared 2 subgroups, those who finally received psychological help and those who did not. We found that the level of fears among those who consulted a psychologist was significantly lower.
We had a separate sample of oncologists who constantly interact with cancer patients. The sample included more than 500 specialists.
9 out of 10 respondents report they regularly receive requests from patients that should be referred to a psychologist, for example in cases of depression, anxiety, patient denial of diagnosis, and reluctance to be treated. At the same time, doctors do not always know exactly where to refer the patient. That emphasizes the need for educational work among medical personnel. 8 out of 10 doctors believe that all patients need psychological help, and the rest think that only some groups need it, in particular mentally unstable, seriously ill, or weak. Therefore, we noted the presence of stigmatizing attitudes in the medical community. 9 out of 10 oncologists report more effective interaction with those patients who received psychological help. Medical specialists note that patients are most vulnerable at the initial stages of the disease, at diagnosis and before starting treatment. This indicates the need for a diagnostic consultation with a psychologist at the very first stages of interaction with oncological services. More than half of doctors noted that palliative stage also requires psychological support, which indicates the importance of cooperation with palliative care services.
Another area of our research was the analysis of messages about oncology in social media. For in-depth analysis, we formed a random sample, including 400 relevant messages. Based on the results of the word frequency analysis, we revealed the markers of the need for psychological help. 8% of messages contained a request for psychological help, describing strong negative experiences. Every 20th message contained information about coping, ways of dealing with negative experiences. For the most part, it was religion, communication in thematic communities, medicines, and support of loved ones. Using our Python script, we analyzed series of images attached to messages and identified a neutral negative visual cues, which contribute to public perception of this sphere. Online platforms can be used for positive purposes, such as promotion of online peer support groups and access to patients in poor physical and psychological condition. Neural networks can also help automatically identify messages with requests for psychological help. This way, we can use social media to combat negative attitudes and debunk myths about oncology.
Our research shows the following indicators of the need for psycho-oncology services in Russia.
More than half of the population closely deals with cancer. Every second relative of a cancer patient chose the maximum score on anxiety scale. Every 12th cancer patient and every 20th relative reported suicidal thoughts. Every 6th person in both groups thought of seeking psychological help, but in the end, only 5% of patients and 7% of relatives did it. These and other indicators point to the need to strengthen psychological support for cancer patients and their relatives. Our results revealed a high necessity for psychological help for both cancer patients and their relatives, as well as the evidence of its effectiveness. Thus, it supports the need for implementing psycho-oncology service in Russia. Based on the results, we came up with several practical implications. First, we designed a concept for psycho-oncology service in Russia, including recommendations on its structure, staff composition, and providing accessibility. Second, we proposed strategies for combating cancer-related and psychological stigmas. And third, we developed a prototype of a neural network for detecting people seeking psychological help in social media to provide them targeted assistance and information.
We plan to bring the research results to the attention of heads of oncological services, publicly promote the project and publish scientific works. We hope that our study will help cancer patients and their close ones.
Thank you. We are glad to be a part of this great project, and we are always open for further collaboration.
Thank you for joining us on this trip around the world. A huge thanks and congratulations to all of our finalists. It's been a hugely difficult year for many of us all around the world when it comes to working, socializing and living, and it's a testament to their passion and creativity that they were all able to see these projects through to their completion. We'd also like to extend a huge thanks to all of our national associations and coordinators. Research Got Talent would not be possible without them, and we do hope to see them all again next year. Now, if you'd like to find out who's won this year's competition, make sure to join us on September 22nd at 9:30 AM European time during ESOMAR Insights Festival, which runs from September 20th to 22nd. You can find all the details to sign up on the ESOMAR website, and I do hope you'll join us again on the day when we reveal the winner. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.